Brother teacher, once again, for those of you that are employed at a job, primarily a restaurant job, where you work for a very nominal wage or a fee, and then you receive tips. In other words, if you expect or you are accustomed to receiving tips on your job, this is not an indictment against you. Especially if you're in the restaurant industry, I know how it works. I know that a lot of waitresses and waiters depend upon their tips to help them make ends meet. Kudos to you, and congratulations if you're very successful in that endeavor. Howbeit, there are some jobs where people have tip jars where they do make an adequate amount of money to sustain themselves, and the tips are helpful. But where the rubber meets the road is this: whoever you are and wherever you are, the whole ideology or idea of tipping is predicated or based on service. I know customarily, traditionally in some places, especially even in Europe, that people tip regardless, just out of habit. And there are places here in America where people do the same. Every time they go to eat at a certain restaurant, or any restaurant for that matter, they tip. And it's not exclusive to only restaurants, but it's primarily exclusive to, not exclusive, but it's primarily restaurants. And then there are some other places, such as a doorman at a hotel or maybe an apartment complex. They may get tips. But in this particular instance, I'm talking about people that work in a restaurant. So, a person that receives tips should never expect tips. It's a beautiful thing. It's good that you receive tips. But if you rely only on tips, you should perhaps find another job, another type of employment. Now, if someone does not give you a tip, you should not become incensed or upset with that patron because they didn't give you a tip. Because first of all, you don't know the people walking in the door. You don't know their economical situation and or status. So how could you possibly glean that they're able to tip you, or to even tip you the way that you would desire to be tipped? And if you're doing that particular job with a good heart, good intentions, then there should never be any vitriol. There should never be any malice when someone does not tip you. Case in point. Now, I can go back to one restaurant some years ago when I worked at a job on third shift, and I'm trying to get to work, and I go into a restaurant, and the waitresses that were there, and it was approximately 3 of them, to include the head waitress that evening. I came in and I sat down, and it took about 30 minutes before I was even waited on. And so the head waitress came over and said, "I'm not your waitress, but I'll take your order." Anyway, these were her words. And so she brought my food back, and I did leave a tip on the table that time. So when I went to check out and pay for my meal, I was on my way out the main door, and she came out behind me and she said, "Sir, excuse me, may I speak with you for a moment?" And I turned around, came back, and she said, "I'm sorry that it took a while for you to get waited on." She said, "But the other 2 waitresses said that the last time you was here, you didn't tip." So I repeated what she said. I said, "Excuse me, the last time that I was here, I didn't tip." She said, "Yeah, that's why they didn't wait on you, and I had to wait on you." I said, "Okay." And then she said, "Well, we only make $4 and some change an hour plus tips. So I repeated that again. I said, well, thank you. Needless to say, I was ticked. I'm not the type to cause a big ruckus at a public facility, so I went home. It's time for me to go to work. I was preparing myself, so I made a phone call. So after this young lady made this statement to me about how much they made, and that's why I didn't get waited on or served, because I didn't tip the last time. Okay, when I got home, I called the location, spoke with the manager. He said, I wish you would have said something to me. I said, well, I was angry and I didn't want to be out of character when I experienced that, and plus I have to go to work right now. So I said, he said he would talk to them and address the issue. I said, well, I hear you, but I would like to know who your boss is. And so he gave me the phone number and the location of the office, the main office. So I contacted that number, left a message that evening with the head of that company. I went home. I already said that. Well, anyway, I went to work. When I got off that morning, I was working third shift. The next morning, I received a phone call from that man. He was the big man, the head guy of that restaurant. And so he asked me the names of the people, what shift it was, what time it happened or occurred, and I told him. And he said, I apologize. Talking to me, he said, for that service from that location, he said, this will never happen again. And I told him who the waitress was, her name and so forth. All right. Within 5 to 6 days, I received a formal letter of apology that stated the location of the restaurant with its letterhead, and outside of that, and his sincere apologies again, and he signed it for my records. I have. And then he sent me several coupons for free meals. I didn't ask for that, but that's what he did. I think it was noble. May he rest in peace. Several years ago, I found out that this man, the head guy, passed away of this company. But when he was living and in good health at the time, he took care of this matter. But anyway, long story short with this is that it's funny. I was driving in another neighborhood, and I went to the drive-through window of another restaurant. And lo and behold, the head waitress was working at the window. So she had been fired from the other restaurant, along with the other waitresses. True story. Now, I said all that to get to this particular story here. This happened in the past couple of months. There's a restaurant that I frequent from time to time, and you know, the people in the restaurant know me for the most part, and they joke a little bit, and I in return. And when I say joke a little bit, I mean subtly joking. But for the most part, I'm serious about everything in life, especially when it's matters or issues of life. So once before, this one young lady that works there says that I don't tip, and I shouldn't wait on him because he don't ever tip. Talking about me. Okay, so no big thing. Slough it off. But here recently, in the past day, I was in that same restaurant, and there was another employee there that knows me well, a younger guy, and she made reference to that again. She said, teacher. They call me teacher. He don't never tip. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen out there that's watching me right now? When you make a statement like that, you most definitely will never, ever, ever get a tip from me, because that says something about you and your character when you make a statement like that, and you are an employee of a business or a restaurant in this particular instance. He never tipped. Who says that? Now, could it be that I don't tip you because of that very reason? Your character, your attitude. I don't owe you anything, and I didn't force you or make you, nor did anyone else force you or make you apply for and be hired at that particular job or that occupation. That's your business. If you are not getting enough money, then you need to find employment maybe somewhere else. But don't take it out on your customers, even in a joking way or manner. I don't owe you anything. Your boss, your manager, the owner of that restaurant is responsible for paying you, paying your salary or your wages, not me. That's something additional, and it's predicated on service. And the very fact that you would make a statement to me directly or indirectly to someone else that works there that I don't tip, the very fact that you made that statement has determined that you won't ever get a tip from me, because you're not worth it. What say you that just listen to me? What do you think about that? I don't give anything to anyone that's not deserving of it. It's really that simple. But ordinarily I would tip, and ordinarily I do tip. But with that type of behavior and immaturity, not at all. That was it, and that was all.